So in my last two videos, I showed you how to uh, create a top-down 2D character movement. I'll show you how it works real quick, or I'll just build my project and show you what's exists. So we have this top-down 2D character movement, and we also have collisions. That's what I went over in my last two videos. Today I'm going to show you how to create an enemy NPC and how to create their movement to move towards the player in this four directional type state. Even if you're doing eight directional, this will still help you. You just have to remove some of the conditions of these statements. So let's get started. First, what we want to do is we're going to create a new folder for our NPC sprite. So we're just going to go new, and well, we'll just go new folder first. So we'll just call this NPC. And in the folder, we're going to create we're just going to create a new sprite. And we can just call this NPC sprite. And for the sprite, we're just going to attach the image of our player character atlas. He'll just look the same as us. And we'll just choose an idle animation for now. And that's all we have to do with that. Next, we're going to go to our main folder and we're going to create a new script. You could create it in your sprite folder or your NPC folder as well. So we'll go new script and then we'll just call it NPC script. Call it enemy script or whatever. This is just be basically a chase script, but we're only going to use four directional movement. So we go back to our main collection and now we can add a new game object. We'll call this NPC1. And we're going to add component file, and we'll just attach NPC sprite. And as you can see, we have our object here. I'm just going to Control Z, move it back to the player location of the NPC1 file. And we're going to set the game object to the top layer, which is 1. And now we have our NPC in the diagram. We'll set them off to the left just a little bit, just so we have room to chase. And now in our NPC script, we're going to create our movement functions. I wrote a script already, so we can just follow this. I'm going to copy and paste these for our initialized self variables. So, and I'm just going to go over here. So the first variable we're going to need is the player character position. And we're just going to set it as an empty vector, which is just going to be 0, 0, 0. And then we're going to get the position of the NPC, ourself. We're going to get my position. And then we'll set that also as an empty vector. And then self distance. This is going to be the distance between the NPC and the player. And it's also going to be an empty vector, but we're going to set all three of these vectors later, including this vector here. The self in direction is going to be the same as that we use for our character, which is just going to say the input direction, is it horizontal or vertical. And then we're gonna have this this setting right here that we can set. This will be our speed 80, and our distance to which we want the NPC to be within at the end of their chase script is going to be 10. You can also, these two things are adjustable. You can change them as you wish. And we can get rid of pretty much all these scripts. We only really need the update function for this. So we'll just get rid of everything. And then we'll just clear this. And so I have this script here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the positions of ourselves. on every update. So we're going to get the player character position, and you want to match the input here to the location of your player character object. So if your thing says player, we're going to need to go player. That will work fine. It should work fine. We'll have to come back if it doesn't. So we're just going to get the position of the game object player, and then we're going to get the game object of ourself. So if you leave this empty, you'll get the position of yourself. And then we're going to calculate the self distance, and this is going to be a three-dimensional vector with only the x and y are going to be ever going to be different from 0. And we're going to get the player character position minus our position. You can do it the opposite way around, but this will make up for our NPC. For NPC will be positive, and down will be negative. Same with left and right. Right will be positive and left will be negative. Um, Similar to the Cartesian coordinates, stuff like that. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create this up-down follow loop. And I'll explain that. So we're going to see if the distance, the uh, the y component of the distance between ourself and the between ourself and the player character is going to be greater than the allowance distance, because once it's equal to or less than the allowance distance, we don't need to move anymore. And if that's true, then if it's greater than the allowance distance, then we're going to move in the up direction. And then if it's less than the negative allowed distance, then um, we'll set our movement in the um, downwards direction. This is just to handle whether it's up or down, essentially the movement that we're going to do. And then if we're within the allowance distance, then this is going to be false. All this will be skipped, and we'll just set um, our movement in the y to 0. And this kind of also just resets the value once we uh, get into the range that we want to be in. So, and now we have the left right follow, and what this is going to do, this one is a little bit more complicated than the up down follow, because we don't want, if we look at the main, we don't want our thing going, well, if y is greater than, if the y distance is larger than x, then we move in the y direction. But then if the x distance is greater than the y direction, then we move in the x direction. And then once they're equal, then they'll just go in a zigzag pattern, which we don't want, or I don't want personally. So I want my player to basically go like this and then down and then like that to reach the player. So if this guy's the NPC's Control Z. If the NPC's up here, I want him to move the full distance and then move to the player. I will put out a pathfinding tutorial at some point, but basically I want him to either close the full horizontal distance and then down, or we'll we'll close this whole distance and then go across, because we don't want him zigzagging, because that kind of breaks up the 40 movement. So we don't want him moving diagonally at all, and plus it looks really jittery and shaky and all that type of stuff. So that's the reason for our conditions. We'll say, if distance x is greater than y, um, might not be necessary. I was experimenting with a lot of stuff. but it still works fine. And then we check to see if the x distance is greater than distance allowed. And then we check if we already finished our y distance, essentially. So I think we can get rid of this, but we'll check here in a second after I run the script. And then here we're just going to check if we're moving left or right, just the same way we did up here. And then if this is false, we just set our direction as 0. And then at the end of everything else, so we can just put a little space here to separate these things, we will set our position to our position plus whatever the input direction is times time dt, which is just the one of the parameters for update. And then this is not necessary at all, so let's attach our script to the player and see what happens. We have double ends right here, so we're going to go to our main collection and grab our NPC, and then we're going to add component file, and then we'll add our NPC script. And now when we press play, we should have some movement from the NPC. Not sure if it'll be correct. We do have some movement. Seems something's off. Let's grab our NPC script one more time. Let's check our player position just to make sure our game object for our player lines up with our player. And it doesn't. That is the issue right here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to see if we move this up and down. It's going to move our player. It's chasing the game object instead of our player. So what we're going to do is just going to Control Z, reset it, and then we're going to move our player sprite. We're going to line it up to 0, 0. And that's fine. And now we can just move the game object here. Now if we control build, now our camera is misaligned, so we want to grab our camera and we're going to line it up with the game object. So we'll go down. We'll just center on our player. Alright, and now our NPC is going to follow us. As you see, we don't have any collisions up, but if I close this distance, he always moves up or down before he moves left or right. And now we have a 4D chase script. And I will look into making a pathfinding video here soon, so we can apply collisions to our NPC, and maybe we'll change how the movement works a little bit. But you can use the same player script that we did in the last video to apply the animations in the correct spots. So like animate this, like the input direction, all that kind of thing. So whenever we set the input direction to this, we can also set this. So yeah, that is NPC movement and chase script and 4D NPC movement.